Hello and welcome to Handling Difficult Conversations. It's great to see you here again, and maybe you were with us last week, and today we're going to look at how to manage difficult conversations for you, your team, and to improve your business growth and bottom line. So did you know that 70% of employees avoid difficult conversations? That's a big stat, isn't it? 70%. Imagine that impact of those difficult conversations not happening between peer groups, between teams, between bosses. What is the impact of not having those conversations on your business? Well, today we're going to look at why we often dodge these difficult conversations. We're going to identify some of the common pitfalls that we jump into when we're about to have those difficult conversations. And finally, I'm just going to share with you one strategy for how to have a difficult conversation, a framework that will give you some handrails and allow you to become an effective leader and handle difficult conversations. So I'm Cara Cunniff, and I'm a leadership and performance coach for a company called Thrivewell Global. We are a people and performance company, and we develop leaders with insight, with influence, and with positive impact. It's great to be with you today, and let's dive straight in. So why do we have these difficult conversations? What is it about these difficult conversations that possibly puts us into a state of fear, something that we're scared of happening? But until we do it, we don't know if it will happen or not. So I held a poll this week, and the results of the poll were the reason we don't have these difficult conversations. 19% of those respondents thought it was lack of communication. 16% thought it was because of the cultural norms of what was accepted in that organization. The third one is relationship trust issues, and that was 13%. And the biggest one, 53% of those who answered the poll thought that it was discomfort with confrontation that would stop those difficult conversations. We've all been there, sweaty palms, feeling uncomfortable. We've got thoughts going through our minds, and we know we have to have that difficult conversation. Maybe it's about calling out some toxic behavior as a leader. Maybe you're worried about damaging a relationship, in work, or it could be, a relationship with a family member. But you avoid that conversation because you're fearful of what the consequences might be. So I want you to think about that last tough conversation, and I want you to go to that place of what you felt when you were about to have that difficult conversation. Maybe it was about bonuses. Maybe it was about somebody turning up to work late. The thing about difficult conversations is, unless we are prepared, it can trigger the fight or flight response within us. And for that reason, we just avoid them. And the thing is, we're humans. We want to belong, and we're fearful that if we have this difficult conversation, that person may reject us, and we don't like rejection. We don't want rejection. So we just avoid those difficult conversations. In my 30 years of working in the corporate world and the entrepreneurial world, with large organizations like HMRC and British Telecom, I've seen firsthand how some of these difficult conversations, when they are avoided, cause longer term, deeper issues within the team. And sometimes we just need to plan be brave, and head on, go into those difficult conversations, because actually what that does, that builds a productive environment. It builds a healthy culture when you are having conversations that you perceive might be difficult. So, following on from the first point, what I want to look at now is, what are the 3 common pitfalls that we might fall into when we're having those difficult conversations? And if we understand the pitfalls, we can start to move through those and have more effective conversations. So what we want to do is think about moving away from these mistakes and these errors and pitfalls so that we have smoother conversations. Now, the big one, the first one, it's lack of preparation. If you haven't prepared and thought through the conversation that you're about to have, you may create misunderstandings. You need to be clear and precise and know what outcome you want from that conversation. So that's the first point. It's, not having a lack of preparation. The second point, blaming. If we're not prepared, or we're not self-aware and haven't developed, some emotional intelligence, we may come into that conversation blaming. And that can get the other person on their back foot, the other person who then sees this conversation as not constructive, and you won't achieve your outcome at the end. So, we've got lack of preparation and blaming, finger pointing, because that creates conflict. Thirdly, it's about not considering emotions in the conversation, not knowing that through giving that feedback, having that conversation, you may not have considered what the other person might think or do from that conversation. So that's part of this discussion is thinking through what the other person may perceive from the way you are delivering your feedback, for example, or calling out of toxic behavior. So think about the next question is, think about the pitfalls that you fall into when you're having difficult conversations. Think about, are you addressing your preparation in the right way? Have you thought about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it? Have you thought about the position the other person is in when they're receiving this information? So, understanding their emotions. And are you delivering this in a way that they are able to receive this information? Is it a safe space to be giving this information to that person and having that conversation? And not blaming, coming in from actually a place of curiosity. What's going on for them? I need to deliver some feedback. Maybe something's happening for them. Maybe I need to listen to them and find out what's going on for them. And the interesting thing here is, having spent time as a reservist army officer, often people believe that the military just give directive orders and conversations are one way. But the thing is, it's not like that at all. Conversations are two-way, and it's about bringing empathy to that conversation that will enable that conversation to be more productive. Now, the skill, mastering the art of the hard conversation. So it's actually really quite simple. I'm going to take you through a method called the BAR method. Now, BAR stands for your behavior. The effect of your behavior is the A, and the R is the request you're going to make. So behavior, effect, request, the BAR method. So first of all, this is just looking at the behavior. You're not talking about personal traits. What is the behavior that person is displaying that is not effective or productive? Then think about the effect that has. So that behavior, what is the effect of that? And then finally, the request. What are you requesting them to do differently? So it could be someone continuously turning up to work late, and the actual effect, so what they're doing is they're turning up to work late. The effect of that is it's potentially having productivity issues. And the request is, from next week, please ensure that you are in at 9 o'clock if that's the desired start time. Now, that's a very simple bar method, but what it does is it gives you handrails to take a conversation through. So I could start. It's lovely to see you here this morning. And I wanted to have a conversation with you about the time that you're turning up to work. I've noticed on a few occasions this week, you've been turning up at 9:30, and as you're aware, our start time is 9 o'clock. The effect of this is that this is putting productivity back and impacting the whole team, not just your productivity levels, but the productivity of the whole team. And this ultimately is going to affect all of our sales targets. So I'm requesting that you turn up and are ready to start work at 9 a.m. So there's no emotion in that. Now, obviously, there may be a conversation that sits around that about, what's going on for that person. For what reason are they turning up, half an hour late? Maybe they've got stuff going on at home that you're just not aware of. And, in that conversation, you can then have a constructive and meaningful route to getting them back to work at the correct time, but also so that you're achieving your targets. Why is this all important? Well, it's important because, we need to enable stronger conflict resolution that is quick and in the moment. As issues build up and we don't give feedback or have those difficult conversations, they become bigger and bigger. They become bigger and bigger, often inside our own head. So what we want to do is enable you with some handrails that you can just use in the moment that is non-emotional and talks about, the facts of the matter and a request for change. It also boosts innovation because actually when people can give and receive and have these difficult conversations, it frees us up to be able to innovate and create because we feel that we are in a psychologically safe environment that has trust inbuilt within it. So a strong culture of trust. And what it also does is following on from that trust is it builds strong team dynamics. And that's what we want. We want strong team dynamics to be able to achieve whatever the business outcome or the task that team or individual is settling down to do. So that's the method. Some of the things just briefly to talk about when you're delivering constructive feedback or having a conversation is about respecting the other person. So we've got an acronym here called TRUST, and the acronym stands for being transparent, being open and honest in your feedback. Respect. Approaching the conversation with respect, because both of you will have an opinion on how this is sitting in your own minds. Seeking to understand the other person and their position. I love that one. Seeking to understand where they're coming from. Support, offering guidance and support to help that potentially behavioural change. And then, as I've mentioned already, timeliness. Absolutely making sure that this feedback is timely so that changes can be effected. I've really enjoyed being with you this morning. We have talked through handling difficult conversations. It's absolutely mission critical within a business for effective leadership and for business growth that conversations happen in a timely, effective, and respectful manner. Next week, we're going to be looking at accidental leadership to intentional leadership, and I hope you'll join us. In the links below, you'll find access to our resilience scorecard and also how to book an Insights Leadership Discovery call with me. It's been a pleasure being with you, and have a great week. Thank you.